What the flick, everybody? Ben, Christy, Alonso, and Matt. Adaptation of Lee Child's book, which I believe is called One Shot, but this is just the character's name, Jack Reacher. Alonso?
So yes, Tom Cruise is Jack Reacher, and Jack Reacher is an ex-Army investigator and multiply decorated combat veteran who is now a drifter and, kind of living life by his own rules. But
drifter by choice.
By choice, absolutely.
He's off the grid.
Yes, he is his own man, and he comes back on the grid when he sees that there's been a mass shooting in Pittsburgh, and he recognizes the assailant, and the assailant, when they try to corner him into confessing, just writes on the paper, "Call Jack Reacher." And you can't call Jack Reacher, but Jack Reacher will show up when you need him, as he does in this movie. Take a look.
Jack Reacher is a ghost, served in the military police, a brilliant investigator, troublemaker too. Then 2 years ago, he disappears.
Yeah, so the joke is what? That Jack Reacher is 6'5" and weighs 250, and he's this blonde behemoth of a badass. And so who else
Not
to play
in this
him
movie,
but
he's
Tom
not.
Cruise? I have not read the book, so I was okay with the fact that it was not an exact body duplicate.
Well, it's just that the character, it's a really interesting character. Lee Child, and I read a lot of mysteries, and Lee Child is one of the best writers in that group. The stories are very similar, and they're not exactly funny, but he's a really skilled writer. And so the idea somehow that it was little tiny Tom Cruise playing this guy who you had a really good sense of who he was, seemed crazy. And I think most Lee Child fans, myself, my brother, we rolled our eyes. We thought it was the worst possible casting choice you could make. And then you see the movie, and you realize, oh no, they fixed it.
Because Tom Cruise is a movie star.
He is, although I gotta say, and I haven't read the book, I didn't go in with any preconceived notions about the character. The character as written is clearly meant to intimidate people just by showing up, and to seduce women just by showing up. And I don't know that that's exactly in Tom Cruise's wheelhouse. I mean, like, he plays somebody who, once you get to know him, you find out that he's a badass or that he's, a romantic or whatever. But in terms of the kind of guy who sort of turns women's heads or makes men cringe in fear when he walks into a room, I don't know that he's that guy.
Well, they underestimate him, and that's part of why it works.
Yeah, I think and that's actually more of what Reacher is that underestimated.
Okay.
Like they think he's a big guy, but there's always like 2 or 3 big guys around who've never lost a fight in their day. And
if that's what the character is supposed to be, which I didn't necessarily always get, then fine. That's always. It's funny that you say the books aren't funny, because I thought this movie was very funny.
It is very funny.
I just mean it's not his great skill. There's some funny moments in them, but
I was surprised at how consistently funny this movie was.
It was really solid.
Because I like when Tom Cruise dials it down. I like when he's not trying to be the charismatic movie star with the megawatt smile.
Right.
He can be, and he's not trying to make us like him. I actually like him better. And so he's stoic and finds the comedy in dry, low-key, unexpected ways. And yeah, I like him like this. And we talked about Night and Day on the show a couple years ago.
Yeah, you and I like
we
that
like
almost
Night and
better
Day.
than anybody, yeah.
And this is very similar in that it's like a low-key kind of badass Tom Cruise role. But it does remind you, first and foremost, aside from the couch jumping and the craziness, Tom Cruise is a movie star.
No
I
question.
mean, you see him in the right movie, and you forget all of the craziness in his personal life, because he just lights up the screen.
And that's true here. I did not buy, and I'm glad they didn't really push it too hard, the potential romance with Rosamund Pike. They hint at it, and it's needless.
I think they bang in the book.
Okay.
Well, they wisely avoided it, because it wouldn't really have played. And then it's one of those movies where there's a really complicated criminal plot, which on the one hand is cool, but the more I think about it, since seeing the movie, the more I realize that's really a lot of effort for a pretty mundane, what is ultimately a mundane crime that you could have pulled off much more simply. They really made it complicated.
I can't remember whether in the book there was more to it. It definitely had the same basic structure as the movie had. But yeah, like when you think back, like there wasn't a less
showy
way to accomplish your goals here.
And I think it is worth pointing out to people, given the climate that we're in right now. This movie opens with a mass shooting.
Where you see right off the bat, like a 6-year-old
and
little
children
girl
are endangered. Yeah. So I'm not blaming the filmmakers. This is the kind of stuff that people make, and the timing is always just going to be up in the air. But just know that if you are kind of a raw nerve right now about that kind of thing, you might not want to see this movie right away. I mean, when it started, I was like, "Oh, are you
totally
really? This is what?" And I got over it, and
because it's not really. It's just those first 3 minutes that
Yeah.
are the tough part, and then it's not really
But
about
just
that.
know going in, you know, if you're still crying at the news, maybe don't go see this
Yeah,
movie.
and
just
the guy like manufactures his own bullets. He's this incredible
Yeah.
army sharpshooter.
Marksman,
There's a little girl in danger. I saw it before the Connecticut shooting happened, so I didn't walk in with that same sense of dread when it happened. But then afterward, I'm like, ooh, this is really
Yeah, it's gonna get
bad
hurt.
timing.
No, it's gonna get
but
hurt
it's
by it,
worth seeing eventually.
I didn't see this, so I've been sitting here monkeying with my phone. But are you guys going to talk about Werner Herzog in this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right?
The
'Cause
Zach.
that's kind of crazy.
Werner Herzog as the like Soviet or the former Soviet like mob kingpin,
Villain
basically.
mastermind.
And
Yeah.
Zach, which is
The Zach.
Which is
a
really the
prisoner.
story of
He's
Herzog's
prisoner,
life,
right?
right?
Pardon?
That's the story of his life, right?
No, he
Yeah,
just
totally.
acts that way.
But what's so funny is that Werner Herzog sounds menacing when he's narrating his own documentaries
Yes.
about things that he's excited about, like a cave, you know. So it's perfect timing or perfect fit for him to be a villain here. Having said that, I think he's kind of underused.
They don't use him much. I did like, is it Jay Courtney, is that his name? Who's sort of his main henchman?
guy, he was good.
He's really
He
good.
was,
He's really intimidating.
Yep.
I think the only main thing he's done in this country is the Spartacus TV show. We're going to be seeing more of that guy because he's got a really good multi-planar face for the camera, you know, and I think very intimidating.
He's got good guy in him too. I don't think he always has to play a bad guy.
Yeah, no. I think he's capable of a lot of stuff. I wish that Rosamund Pike had gotten more interesting stuff to do because I think she's a terrific actress, like, you know, from An Education and Dagenham. David Oyelowo, who's in an indie last year called Middle of Nowhere.
He's in The Paperboy.
He's up for Spirit Award. He was in The Paperboy. He doesn't get a whole lot to do either, which was kind of disappointing. But you know, I'm always happy to see people like that get a nice Hollywood paycheck for the next 10 indies where they're not going to make
We're
any
leaving
money.
out the two other names in the cast. The only guys in the other cast to receive Oscar nominations for Best Actor: Richard Jenkins
Oh, that's
and Robert
true.
Duvall.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert Duvall is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we should mention also who wrote and directed this, which is Christopher McQuarrie, who wrote The Usual Suspect.
Yes.
This is the first film he's written and directed since The Way of the Gun from 2000, and I think there are some Hitchcockian aspirations here in terms of tone, in terms of camera angles. There's a fantastic car chase.
Yes.
And a big chunk in the middle of it is like a 70s
really
style,
good-
very muscular car chase.
Yeah.
And
It's one of the film's many implausibilities in terms of the fact that how Jack Reacher catches up to the bad guys who've gotten an insane head start on him. You know, in a city that, you know, where they could have gone in one of a million directions,
Jack
and he
Reacher.
catches
He's
them like
smarter than
that.
everyone.
I guess
There are
so.
lots of bridges.
But it's one.
But it's a great car chasing. But again, this is a really funny movie. They inject a lot of wit
Yeah.
into it. There's a lot of clever bits going on, and I was shocked at how much I was
Just
laughing.
give me
during
15
this.
seconds then, because it's such a valuable character to me. It's like the best of James Bond here. It's a gadget-free James Bond where he's just smarter than everybody and more clever. And his going off the grid isn't some weird movie thing off the grid. It's like it really is a lifestyle choice. You know, he has a passport, so he can get on a plane, and he does go to the bank to get money. It's not like he lives underground as a hermit, but he's got a great thing which are in all the books that's in the movies. He doesn't have luggage, so he buys new clothes every 2 or 3 days, then he throws the rest of the clothes away.
Yeah,
and he just starts over.
He goes into Goodwill, buys a new outfit, deposits the old outfit, and then boom, that's it. And he wears that one outfit for the entire film.
He uses payphones.
He uses
so stealthy.
Yeah, he's so stealthy. All right, it's going to get harder. All right, so numbers on Jack Reacher. I liked it quite a bit.
I liked
and
it
I didn't
too.
expect to. I gave it an 8.2.
7.3.
6.9.
That's a 7.5. A solid rating for Jack Reacher.
Yeah, it's in the
Tomato meter.
70s on the tomato meter.
All right, so we're right on it.
Go see it eventually.
Yeah.
Bye.